You're watching Inside Automotive with Jim Fitzpatrick.
It seems hybrids are taking center stage. In fact, according to Urban Science, hybrid EV sales are surging. So, and this is really the most among all electrified powertrains. So today we're joined by Tom Kondrat, who is the global lead for advanced analytics at Urban Science, to share more on this and other findings from their EV microstudy. So Tom, thank you so much for joining us once again on CBT News.
Thank you, Jim. Glad to be here.
Sure. So to set the stage, tell us about the scope of this study that you guys conducted.
So the Urban Science microstudy, which we just released on electric vehicles, covers the U.S. retail industry. So it's a little bit unique in that we focus on retail specifically, and it covers the entire U.S., all brands, with our Urban Science near real-time data. And it focused on the growth of hybrids, electrics, and various powertrains in the retail sector. And it has some very interesting facts in it.
Wow, that's pretty comprehensive. So jump right in. What are those interesting facts?
So one of the interesting facts is that hybrids are up 33% year to date in the retail space. Toyota, Honda, Ford are among the market leaders.
Okay.
You combine them, you get over 70% of all hybrids are just those three brands.
Really?
But
Wow.
The growth has been continued from last year. Last year, hybrids were up over 50%.
Okay.
So really starting the year just like they finished. And the main reason for that is that you have a lot of consumers that are interested in adopting electrification, but the hybrids offer a way to kind of dip your toe into electrification without really changing your lifestyle or the way that you refuel the vehicle.
Yeah.
And not only that, we see a lot of adoption in rural and suburban parts of the country where battery electrics have not taken off as much.
That's right. That's right. I think people are still a little bit afraid that they're going to get stuck on the road, and they've got range anxiety, and certainly we're not seeing the infrastructure there quite yet. And amazing, just this past weekend that the Secretary of Transportation was on one of the morning news shows and was asked, why, if $7 billion have been allocated, to EV structures and the infrastructure, I should say, with charging stations, how come only 7 have been installed? So, and he said, well, this is something that's going to take a very long period of time, maybe another 5 or 6 years to accomplish that and spend that money on those charging stations. That doesn't help the situation any, does it, when people are on the fence about buying an EV?
No, it doesn't. We see the uptake greatest in densely concentrated urban areas for battery electrics.
Sure.
Where you have a lot of people that can charge from home.
Yeah.
So 80 to 90% of charging now and probably forever into the future will be at home. So when you have folks that have garages, have relatively newer homes that have newer electrical infrastructure in the home, with the 200 amp service and that kind of thing, it's more cost effective to put in a charging station at home.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. We just purchased a brand new home 2 months ago, and as soon as we walked into the garage of this brand new home, there's the big plug waiting for the charging station and the apparatus to be plugged right in. So you're right. The home developers are already in tune with this. So it seems like Toyota got this right, where they said, hey, let's use the hybrid EV as kind of the gateway to a full EV environment, right? An EV structure, and it seems as though that's paying off for them, right? And as it is with others.
Yeah, Toyota has definitely benefited from the strategy that they've taken, which is kind of an all-of-the-above strategy.
Yeah.
And Toyota, very large manufacturing base, they can afford to do that, and they've done that well. Offering a combination of hybrids, plug-in hybrids, and that kind of thing. So, but we see that battery electrics aren't done yet. We still see growth in the near future.
Sure.
And we can talk about where we see that and how and why we see that.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think a lot of people think, oh, when they hear that EVs aren't selling, no, they're selling, and to your point, the sales are increasing, just not at the rate that we thought from all of the hoopla out there in media and advertisements from OEMs and such that, oh, it's all EVs and you better want one of those because if not, you're not going to have a choice of a vehicle to buy, right?
Right. There was a lot of hype, a lot of excitement, a lot of media support last year for battery electrics. You know, Tesla, to their credit, they had one of the top 5 selling vehicles in the United States last year, the Model Y.
Yeah.
So, Tesla's historically been over 50% of the US share for battery electrics.
Wow.
But that's changing this year. We're seeing some things happen with Tesla. For one, the Model Y now is about 4 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's new entrants, new segments coming in, and they're eating away little by little at Tesla's share.
Yeah.
And so Tesla's actually down 13% retail battery electric so far this year. And but that's not the end of the story. The other side of the story is that all electrified battery electrics that aren't Tesla are actually up almost about the same as hybrids are.
Huh.
So you take Tesla out of it, and all the other brands combined, including the battery electric brands, the traditional brands, they're up a combined 33% so far this year.
Wow. That's encouraging, right?
Yes, I think it should be encouraging. There's one of the advantages that traditional OEMs have is that they've got very broadly based dealer networks.
That's right.
So they've got dealers all over the country. And a very interesting fact that we released in the microstudy is that battery electric vehicles are sold closer to dealerships than the overall industry sales are, okay? So the metric is 28 miles is where 80% of battery electrics are sold in terms of distance from dealer, okay?
Huh.
That's actually 5 miles closer than the industry overall. So and the reason for that is partially due to that customers like to experience and take a test drive before they go all in on an EV.
Yeah.
And so, as these traditional OEMs come out with new models, new segments, things that compete with Tesla, they're able to, demonstrate them and convince customers of the benefits and, match them up to the right customers that are interested in an EV.
Yeah, very interesting. So those are some interesting stats that you just shared with us. What else were you surprised at from the report?
So Florida and Texas are the number 3 and the number 2 states for EV sales in the country.
Really?
Okay, so Texas is number 2, Florida is number 3.
Interesting.
And it is interesting. They're large states, so they have, many people purchase vehicles in those states.
Sure.
But neither one of those states is a CARB state, and neither one of those states has a broad state incentive for EVs.
Wow.
So it shows that there's opportunity to sell EVs even when you don't have state mandates or state incentives to do so.
Let me ask you, what about affordability? It looks like by and large EVs run about $10,000 more than a gas-powered vehicle. That's got to play into this, right?
It does to a certain degree, yes. In our survey data, we do see, on average, consumers are willing to spend 20% more to purchase an EV. It's very interesting.
Wow.
Those that would consider it. So not everybody would consider it, but for those who would consider it, maybe let's say, 30 to 40% of the country has said, in the next 5 years, they'll consider an EV. They're willing to pay more, but the expectation is that the savings on fuel costs,
I was just going to say,
will make up for that.
Right.
And I think that's a big part of it, is the fuel cost advantage. And so, I think that, maintenance, I think we're going to wait and see how this shakes out. But but some people report much lower cost of ownership for a battery electric. There's just fewer moving parts in one of those vehicles. But but I think the fuel is a big savings potential for some people.
My daughter and her husband both drive Teslas, and I think it's their second vehicles in both cases that they've been driving EVs now, and they said they're never going back. And the biggest advantage that they saw was, man, they just passed the gas stations. They charge them in their home, and it's never an issue. And if they've got to go on a long drive and there's not an EV charging station convenient, they said, you know what? At the end of the day, we don't have a problem going 45 minutes or an hour, sometimes out of our way. They feel it's a small price to pay for the overall convenience all year long of never having to sit there at a gas station for 15 or 20 minutes filling up. So,
and Georgia has pretty affordable electricity prices.
Yep, that's right. So it's not too bad. But Tom Kondrat, who is the global lead in advanced analytics at Urban Science, thank you so much for joining us on the show. I know that our dealer viewers and managers get a lot out of your time with us. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Jim.
Thanks.
Thanks for watching Inside Automotive with Jim Fitzpatrick.